In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Good morning. Growing up, I was always fairly good at art. I was always a pretty good sketcher, pretty good illustrator, pretty good photographer. But there's a moment in every artist's life, and that's what I studied in undergrad. There's a moment in every artist's life where they make a leap from, oh, hey, that's a cute little side hobby. Oh, look what my little kid did, to, oh, wow, that's a really, really beautiful artwork, piece of work. And that's the moment that you realize how to work with lighting and perspective. That's also the moment where you become a snob about everyone else's artwork, which is a double-edged sword. But basically, I'm holding a charcoal box to demonstrate. We've got a strong directional lighting from here over my left shoulder, which causes a bright highlight here, and then deep shadow right here, and then casts a shadow right there on the floor. And then perspective is where you have a vanishing point on the horizon line, which means all of the sides kind of converge towards that perspective, right? So basically, Sophia, how many sides of this box can you see? 3, right? This side, and the bottom. You can't see this back side, right? Okay. Thank you. Proof of point. That's all I needed the box for. That's a really important thing for an artist, to understand how to master the light, the shadows, and the vanishing points. Otherwise, maybe you don't realize it, but your artwork will never look polished. It'll never look right. It'll always look cartoony. Well, that moment for me was in 8th grade, and I remember I was on a Lenten retreat, and it struck me that iconography doesn't follow those rules, and I became really, really angry. I was sitting in church saying, there's no perspective. There's no vanishing point anywhere. There are no shadows anywhere. There's no highlights anywhere. And I remember getting really, really angry as a little 13-year-old sitting in the pews thinking I knew better than 2,000 years worth of wisdom from the church. There's a reason why icons are made the way they are. And the reason is in today's epistle reading. We read from St. Paul's letter to the Ephesians that he is begging, as a prisoner, he is begging the church to lead a life worthy of the calling of the Father of us all, who is above all and through all and in all. God is everywhere. And the point is that there is nothing hidden from God, which is why when you look, for an example, the Confession of Thomas right here, you can see right here in this icon up here, the Confession of Thomas, we can see 4 sides of that main building there. Sophia, how many sides could you see at any given time of the box? 3. You shouldn't be able to see one of those sides on that building. That would anger me. But for God, he can see everything. He is everything. He is everywhere. There's nothing that's hidden from him. But I can only see 3 sides of that box that I just put on the floor. Well, God can see all 6, even though we can only see 3. And that's the point of this iconography. This exploded perspective reminds us that God sees even the hidden things of life that we might not recognize. That's also why there's no shadows. You'll see there are no shadows under any of the icons and under any of the feet of the saints or under any of the figures and the icons of the scenes of Christ. That's because, again, Christ is the light of the world. There's nothing that casts a shadow that he can't bring back and illumine, okay? The other thing that we notice is that you'll never see any building scenes or any indoor scenes. Now, we know that there are plenty of things that happened indoors. You look right here at the icon of the Last Supper, right behind the altar, there's no roof. We knew that was done in the inner room, right? The upper room with a locked door. Well, where's the ceiling? There is no ceiling. If you look in any of the icons that take place inside buildings, you'll never see a ceiling, but what you'll see, if you look at the wedding of Cana, you can see a good example right here. You'll see a little red cloth hanging over the top of a building. That means that this took place indoors. But why didn't they put a ceiling? Because there's nothing hidden from God. When you're in your office, when you're in your bedroom, when you're in your car, God sees that. There's nothing where you can duck and hide and cover from God. He saw the wedding at Cana. He was present at the wedding of Cana. That's why there's no ceiling, but we put a red cloth on top of it to signify that this took place indoors. Just like you can see the red cloth, those of you who are here probably can see a little better, hanging over the tops of those buildings, right? So all of these things, no perspective, no vanishing points, no shadows, and no ceilings, are things that remind us that God is above all, through all, and in all, no matter if we realize it or not. And our limited perspective is not something that we can pass on to him, okay? And this is beautiful because it's a stern reminder that when you're in secret, you're not really in secret, right? When you're in your home, in your room by yourself, you're not really alone by yourself. But that also gives us hope that even when you're in your darkest times, surrounded and you feel like you're enclosed by darkness and by the abyss and by demons and whatever, God's still there with you and he still sees you. Even in your casket, when we die, there's nothing that's hidden, even in the earth, from God. That's the beautiful thing that we know, and that's a beautiful thing that we see in iconography, even if it's angering some of the 13-year-olds who learned how to draw correctly from some private tutor. But this is our iconographic tradition, and this is what we believe.